for the fences, but they're too far away. Let's play it again. What would it take to make me be still? To slow down, look around and tell the panic subsides. Oh, it's like a maze, constant motion, constant trace. It's filling me up, so I double down, try to find a bigger crowd. It's never enough. What would it take to make me be still? To slow down, look around and tell the panic subsides. What would it take to make me be still? To slow down, look around and tell. Oh, what would it take to make me be still? Slow down, look around and tell the panic subsides. I don't wanna look, I don't wanna see what's under the hood. I don't wanna be anything but good, and I can't be, but something's there, and I act like I don't care. Blissfully unaware, and it's killing me. If life is one big disappointment, then maybe I'm doing this thing right.
There you go. Mic's on. Hey, we're live. My name is Joe Gilder. Welcome to the stream. Somebody asked, is this Ask Joe? And yeah, it kind of is. Ask Joe, in case you didn't know, it was a weekly live stream / podcast that I did years ago. I've since retired, but we're back and we're live. It is a Friday. I normally don't even work on Friday, but I wanted to hang out with you today. There's a little bit of ulterior motive, but I want to make it valuable for you and just do some Q&A. So the reason for this live stream, as you can see right down here below me, I launched a new course. It's called the Pro Vocal Production Playbook. It's a mouthful, and it's a deep dive into my vocal production process, including recording, setup and recording, editing, comping, tuning, and also mixing. It's really fun. I hope you'll consider joining. It's on sale this week. Actually, today's the last day to buy it at a 50% discount. Use the link below, homestudiocorner.com/PVPP. But I can see we got a good crew here already, and the way this works is if you got questions, type them into the old chat. I plan to hang out here for a while. I stole a couple pieces of Halloween candy from the kids. I think these got rained on because it was a rainy Halloween for us. So that may not actually be sanitary. Arguably best candy ever. Not the mini. The minis are fine, but I'm hard pressed to find a better candy, and I will fight to the death over that. So, it is what it is. Let's see who's in the chat. I see Stuart and Acco, two of my Vipers, the Nameless, another VIP member. Dr. McFarland, probably I would be hard-pressed to find someone I haven't known longer than Dr. McFarland. We go back, 20 years, probably, at least. We probably met in 2004. Daniel says false about Swedish Fish. You can go ahead and leave the stream. I'm serious. No, I'm kidding. All candies are welcome here. Cool. So hit me up with your questions. We can talk about, obviously, the topic du jour is vocals. We can open up Studio One, have some fun there. But really, any questions, fair game. I'm here at your service. I've got water and candy, so I'm good to go for a nice long time. We both had more hair back then. Oh, that's the truth. Okay, let me scroll up. There are a couple of questions in the waiting room. Let me make sure I got to those. Blind Country Records asks, I'm a totally blind singer-songwriter. I'm using DistroKid to upload all my music. How far should I set the release date of my songs? I would see what DistroKid says. I know when you log in, it says when you're setting the date, it can be as soon as like today, but it'll take about a week for it to propagate on all the platforms. I think it recommends at least a week or two so that it goes live on all the platforms at the same time. I am not as good at planning as that, so I just release that sucker. Like I want it to be out like tomorrow, so I go ahead and release it, and as soon as it's available on at least Spotify and Apple Music, then I'll start telling people about it. There's probably a better way to do that, and I bet DistroKid probably has an answer for that. Yes, this is Ask Joe. Ryan says my reach is crazy all over the planet. It's because of my long arms. Garrett, thank you for buying my course. Curtis says, why does track 1 always stay armed? I can't turn off the red record button, even if I'm recording on another track in Studio One 5. Well, that's not normal. I was going to show you, but the thing I was thinking is there's an option where whatever track you have selected becomes record enabled, but you can turn that off in the little wrench there in Studio One. I don't know. I'm curious if it is actually armed or what. That does seem like a bug. You click on the red thing and it just doesn't do anything. That feels weird to me. I have no answer for you. Sorry. Mark, do you have any thoughts on using anacrusis pickups in loops and patterns? I have no idea what that word is. Sorry. Also don't know what you mean by pickups in loops and patterns, so I'm doubly out. JD says, hi, Joe. Currently using Studio One 6. It's already way more than I need. Should I bother with 7? Great tunes, by the way. Thank you. So version 7 just came out. This is what I say with every release. If there's a feature that you really want, go for it. That's it. If there's not a feature if there's a feature you think, man, I don't know if I can live without that, or I could see myself really using that to make some music, then I say go for it. If not, and if you just, I'm of the, can you make music with what you have? Oh, you can? Well, then do that. Because a lot of people spend all their time upgrading and learning software and hardware and collecting gear, and they don't make music. I'd much rather you be on Studio One version 3 and releasing music than Studio One version 7 and not doing anything. Sorry, Personas. That's my answer. It's the correct answer, even if it's not maybe the most profitable answer. Let's see. How many times have you changed the setup in your studio? Oh, many. Many, many, many. This current iteration is my favorite because I got this big honking kitchen table over here. And I can switch over and draw things for you and throw candy on front of the camera, which is delightful as well. So that's this is my favorite so far. I've had a lot of setups in just this room, not to mention all the places I've moved, because we move a lot. That's our hobby. We like moving. We don't like moving, but we do move a lot. Joe, do you recommend using mono or stereo plugins on vocals? Well, it depends. I don't like the way that chat just jumps like that. Well, I lost it. There you are. Here. Danny the Demon. What's up, Danny? I just did a critique for you, I believe. So a vocal track, 99 times out of 100 is a mono track. So there's no reason to use a stereo plugin on it unless you're using a plugin that's adding some sort of width, like the tremolo, the X Trim in Studio One. You can turn it into pan mode where it moves things left and right. Unless you're doing that, then it probably just needs to be mono. Bigger picture is I haven't made that choice in years because Studio One just picks the appropriate one for the. I remember Pro Tools having mono, multi-mono, and whatever stereo interleave. I forget what it was called, but you don't have to. Studio One just chooses for you. Now, if you're running your vocal to a bus, that bus is probably stereo. Then it's going to be a stereo plugin. But there's no benefit to mono or stereo. It's literally just a fact. Is it mono or is it stereo? And if you're doing things like adding reverbs need to be on sends going to a stereo bus. So it can still be a mono vocal sending to a reverb. I actually have a video coming out on Personas' channel next month about mono versus stereo, because there's a fundamental, for a lot of people, there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what that means. And so that video will spell that out even more. So be on the lookout for that. Swedish Fish, ew. You can get out of here too, Highway Freak. This is my show. Can y'all read the chat over here? Or shall I make it bigger? Let me know. Also, if you do have a question, tagging me at Joe Gilder might help me see it better. We'll see. I don't know. Please like and subscribe and share. Aw, and smash that bell thingy. You don't have to do any of that. You just have to go buy the course. That would be even better. I'm just saying. Just keeping it real. Joe, we offer direct feedback options for the PVPP course. There is an option when you order. The next page gives you an option to purchase 3 critiques from me for the price of 1. So yes, that is an option once you place your order. Which is fun. I'm just on the tail end of doing a cohort with my mixing course where people got 3 separate rounds of feedback from me on their mixes, and it was super helpful for them and also super interesting for me because you can hear the evolution of their mixes from the first like static mix through to the final mix. So I'm seeing those as more valuable in chunks and repeats versus one-off. So that's what we're doing. My guy Joe, almost weird seeing you without your boy Gregor. Oh, thank you. I love Gregor. I really do. But I came before him, many, many years before him. So, is there? Okay, sorry. I saw the nameless Ryan. I saw your question, and it keeps jumping on me. What's your go-to for dealing with nasal singers? Well, first of all, we're all nasal singers in some way, because if your voice sounds different when you hold your nose, does my voice sound different now that I'm holding my nose? It made me more Southern for some reason. Everyone has sound coming out of your nose. Now, obviously, I get what you're saying. You're saying people that sing more nasally, who instead of singing more fully, more from their diaphragm and their throat, they're kind of more like this and more nasally. The thing about nasal is it has its own frequency range. It's 1 to 3K, give or take a little bit. Could be a little higher if it's a female or a higher voice, but that's the area where you want to pay attention. That's the part that's going to annoy you and keep you from being able to turn the vocal up very much. So using either dynamic EQ or just a EQ notch up there, when and if it gets annoying, will help. Also, make sure you're getting enough fullness in the voice. So if they're too far off the microphone, it gets kind of thin. And that can be great for a lot of voices, but maybe their voice, it actually works better if you get closer, get a little more warmth from the mic to kind of counterbalance that harsh kind of nasal grossness that's happening. That would be what I would do. I would argue I probably have a nasal voice, and that 2.6K for me is a culprit over and over and over again. So I just, for the most part, just get rid of it. Stubert. Oh, hang on. Sunil Varghese says, I find it sometimes impossible to get the audio to work even after arming the track. What is the best practice regarding arming a track and setting mic and using... I mean, I just did a video on I/O setup in Studio One over on the Personas channel. I would watch that. There's not really any best practice. It's just understanding how routing and inputs, outputs, audio routing works. So you just got to develop a basic fundamental understanding of how that works, and then you'll never have to worry about it again. What is the best way to deal with... Oh, hey, Stu. What's the best way to deal with breath noises? And what is the best way to encourage singers to look away from the mic when they breathe? To your second point, I would say don't. Don't encourage singers to look away from the mic when they breathe. If they do it naturally... Do you remember that... remember the video Chocolate Rain? This is like old, like YouTube 1.0. Let me see if I can find it. Never mind. This guy singing, and like he would lean away from the mic like that to take a breath, and he put like a little caption on the screen that says, lean away from the microphone to make the breath sound quieter. I think I find myself doing that some, even live. If I have to take a deep breath or something, or especially if I have to cough, like I'll lean off the mic and do that. Unless they're doing it naturally, I wouldn't encourage them to do that. That feels like singing in a studio is already a struggle and is already difficult for the singer. Don't make it more difficult by giving them more things to do that don't really matter. As far as dealing with breath noises, I think the real answer is it's only a problem if it's a problem. So if you get to the end of the mix and you're hearing the breath noises in such a way that you don't enjoy, then you got to deal with it. But otherwise, don't do that thing people do where they make problems out of things that aren't problems. Like they go, like there was an album in Nashville. I don't know what the album was, but I heard the story from someone who would know that it was when Pro Tools first came out and somebody went through on the lead vocal, it was a country record, edited out all the breath sounds. When the album came out, people were like, why does this feel so uncomfortable? Turns out we, as humans, are pretty fond of breathing. And if the singer we're listening to never breathes, it makes us feel uncomfortable. Like it feels like I'm holding my breath. So I would say, yeah, they can be too much. And if they are, then it's just a matter of like you go in here. Let's make my face smaller. Let's go in here. So I won't go through and deal with breath sounds at all, until it becomes a problem. And then if it is something like this right here, see if that, oh.
It's filling me up. So I double down.
Oh, I was playing the YouTube video. That was complicated. So here, this vocal right here. Okay, it's very quiet. But here's the breath there. Ooh. So if that breath, for whatever reason, was stupid loud, for whatever reason, then you can separate it like this and turn it down. Or one thing I'll do is I'll just fade in over the breath pretty aggressively. Obviously, that's way too loud. But that... Otherwise, I don't think it's a thing I would address with a singer. I don't think that's actually a problem. And I guess, I mean, never say never. Like, yeah, there could be a situation where it's such a they have such bad. I don't know. I don't know that I would say the singer needs to breathe differently. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. Let me scroll on. Greg, I'm coming back to you. Would love live feedback cohort for your songwriting course. Ooh, it's a good idea. It's very time consuming, Greg. So I'm trying to figure out a way to do that. It might involve me not being the one doing all the feedback. That might be the only way that can work. We'll figure it out. Lucas Wigington just got PVPP. Looking forward to diving in. Lucas, fantastic, like baritone country voice. Everybody go follow Lucas. He's one of my VIP members. All right, did y'all tell me if y'all can read this? I know you've got the chat in your own window anyway, but all right, let's go back into the questions. Mario says, will you ever do videos like behind the EP again? I remember back in college, I love seeing the breakdowns you would do of your own EPs and others. Behind the EP, I suppose I remember doing that. I should. Did I not do one for the Stare Down EP? I feel like I did. I should need to release an EP and then I could do something like that. I also go behind. I go back a little bit behind the scenes in a lot of my courses on different albums and stuff that I've done to give you like insight into some of the stuff that went into making it sound the way that it did. Jay Tyler says, question, do you prefer hardware outboard gear or plug-in compressor limiter for rock vocal tracking? Well, for tracking, I mean, I like a good piece of hardware. I don't have tons. I've got this Presonus ADL 700 that I use quite a bit. It's bit me a couple times, more tracking drums where I had the compressor set wrong and I didn't notice it and it just ruined everything. So lately, and actually what I do and I show inside the course, which is right here, by the way, what I did was I had a vocal that was too, I was singing a vocal that was very dynamic. The verses were really quiet and the choruses were really, really loud. And so I was having a hard time in having fun singing it during the tracking session. So I put an aggressive like 1176 plugin on my voice just for me to listen. It wasn't being recorded. And then I sang through that. And then I added like a slapback delay. Then it felt like I was singing again. It felt like a performance. And it was a lot more fun. And the actual take was a lot better. So yeah, I like plugins for that. So then you can just go nuts with super aggressive compression without like worrying about committing that to tape because you probably don't want that much or you may want to tweak it later, which is all doable with plugins. Raymond says, what do you think about using Helix or Headrush, etc. amp modelers, multi-effects pedals as your main source for your bass guitar or even vocal tones as opposed to actual amps and so forth? So vocal tones, no. But bass and guitar, absolutely. I've got a Helix right over here. It's unplugged, but it sounds great. And it gives me a lot of tones, and it's easy. I mean, those are all wins for me. I'm fine with it. Track 1 will not turn off the recorder. Yeah, I don't know, Curtis. Sorry. Talk to tech support. Easyon says, could you create realistic harmonies with new transpose function, 3-part, etc.? No, not the global transpose. You have to do that with Melodyne. But you could easily do that by just, let's go back. You'd have to do it manually, but like this vocal here. What child is this? If I wanted to do harmony of that, but I didn't feel like singing it because I was lazy, we could do this. We could duplicate the track completely. And you'd have to bounce the new track because whatever you do to this is connected to this one unless you bounce it as a new piece of audio. But then we could Melodyne this one. And then we could literally go through and note by note change the harmonies if you wanted. It's too late. What child? So we go. What child is this? Right. Super. What child is... And so you could go note by painstaking note and like make the harmony. At best, it's going to sound mediocre. In a dense mix, you could probably hide it just fine. If it was me, I would just sing it or have them sing it. It would take time, but I don't love that idea. Now, if you're going for like a vocoder effect, like I did on, let me show you a song real quick. On this EP, on this song.
Tonight is when I needed you, 'cause you're the only one who knows.
So that, I took her one voice, did that what I just showed you, that duplicate thing over and over again, and then created like a vocoder kind of harmony. So they sound fake, doesn't sound like she recorded 7 vocal tracks. It sounds manufactured, which is what we were going for. So if that's what you're going for, cool. But if you're trying to make it actually sound like somebody sang it, you'd be better off having them sing it again or somebody else singing it. Because even the harmony I just showed you on mine, it moved exactly with my voice to the point where you can tell it's the same part, just pitched up. And that makes it sound fake. So I'd say no. Whoa. Is there a different approach to record singers with accents like British singers? Well, no, because all the British singers try to sing like Americans, and all the American singers try to sing like British. So no, no, I don't think so. I think really when working with singers as a producer, it's great if you can lean into the role of coach because they'll want it and need it. Most singers, they'd appreciate if you coach them specifically through things like. A lot of times, the problem with the track or the take they're working on is they're using the wrong vowel sound. Like it's like hope, but they're singing like huh instead of like ho, like an o sound. So stuff you would learn in like proper voice lessons can still be applied to like a pop vocal. They don't need to sing it like a, opera style. But just a little shift in taking those vowel sounds and making them a little rounder can it helps them with pitch. It helps them be able to hold it more. It helps it sound more in tune. So like, hey, can you open your mouth a little bit and, make that more of an ah instead of an it'll sound better. And they may push back, but a lot of times, like when I'm having an issue with a part, a lot of times it's that vowel sound that's getting me stuck. So a way to coach people, whether they're British or not, is to think through those vowel sounds and kind of keep that on the brain. Could you create real? Already said that. Anacrusis are the notes before pre-beat 1 bar 1. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Sorry. Gonna stick with logic. Great. The global transpose in 7 is worth it. Yeah, if you're the kind of person who would use that, that's a cool feature. I'm probably not. Although I might use it on a song I'm working on right now. What do you think about vocal line? Is there a good option for aligning vocals? I mean, yeah, vocal line is the option. I've literally never used it. I understand its usefulness, especially for like an a cappella track where there are, 20 tracks of vocals and you need them all to line up real good. But honestly, my advice is to just sing them in line. I know I'm going to give like old grumpy old curmudgeon advice because I think it's the right advice. Like you go look at like any tracks that I've done that have tons of background vocals, you just got to sing them all the same. Like have the discipline and the practice to sing them all the same. And one trick to do that is to look at them while you're recording them. I'm trying to think if I have a session here that shows that real quickly. Okay, here. This is actually, there's a bonus course inside of the new course down below. There's a bonus course there all about background vocals. And specifically, like while I was doing that course, I sang these background vocals. And you'll notice they all start at the same point. They all mostly end, like I let go of the note at the end point. Same thing here. So one of the ways that I make sure I do that, because rather than having to memorize when did I cut off, was it on the end of the beat, was it on beat 4, was it all the way through to beat 1? I don't think in those terms. I literally do a lot of my background vocals sitting in this chair, and as I'm recording one, I'm just watching, and I can see where it cuts off on the previous one, and so I just do that. And so I'm literally like, it's almost like I'm following the bouncing ball as this goes across, and then I stop singing right there, and then move on to the next take. And so that's, I mean, it seems overly simple, but it works. It doesn't take a whole lot of practice. I mean, just like playing in time on a guitar takes practice. It's way worth it versus learning how to get really good at fixing timing issues on guitar. It'd be better just to play better in time. Hobby House says, I get so much hate for using FL Studio, but I've used it since nearly the beginning. How do you feel about it? I've never used it, and so I don't care. I use Studio One because I like it, and then I use it because there would be no reason for me to switch. I mean, PreSonus would have to it would have to not work, or they would have to severely hurt my feelings for me to switch. Yes, the part of me is loyal, but a part of me is, this is how I make music. You shouldn't care. Like nobody cares what kind of typewriter, Steinbeck used to write his novels, right? They care about the novels. Nobody cares what software you use. Yeah, you might get flack in like audio circles. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. As someone who loves Studio One and gets paid to help promote Studio One, it doesn't matter what software you use. Because if you don't make music, what's the point anyway? Can we get a studio tour? I mean, there's actually one in the course, so you'll see it there. I don't have a way to move the camera around. I could maybe draw it on paper, but I don't think that would be that interesting for everybody. or notes in a loop that don't start on the beat one of the measure. Okay. So the question is, how do I feel about using those in a loop? I'm okay with, I don't love it unless the loop works starting from beat 1, and then when it loops, there's like a pickup that still works with the start. If that's the case, I could add that pickup to the beginning of the loop, and then it loops. But if the beat doesn't work right on the downbeat, and then the pickup is like extra bonus, then I don't know if I would use it. I don't know if that makes sense. Do you see any specific advantages to version 7, or am I all right with version 6? Yeah, there are advantages. It just depends if you're going to use them. If you think like the splice integration is really cool and you want to try that out, if you want the global transpose, there's a lot of features that I think gear a little more towards electronic musicians. If you want the stem separation, instead of having to do stem separation elsewhere, I mean, those would be reasons you may want to upgrade. But if otherwise, no. Sean Waite says, Joe, do you market yourself? And if so, how? This is a really good question. It's a really fun question. So the answer, of course, is yes. And the question to how is you're looking at it right at this very moment. At this very moment, I'm marketing myself. How? I create content that is really helpful for people. Yes, there's a self-serving element. Like currently today, I blatantly want you to buy my new course. Like I'm asking you, literally, if I've been valuable to you over the last 15 years of running this channel and you've never taken a course from me, go buy a course. It's going to be great. You're going to get way more value out of it than you pay. That's the way it works. And also there's a 1-year guarantee. So like you could email me on November or Halloween of next year and I'll give you a refund. So there's no risk. But like I make valuable content here every week for 15 years. And then some of you join my email list and some of you buy my stuff. And some of you listen to my music. 15 years times 52 weeks. Yeah, that's 780 videos just here on YouTube, not to mention Personas and all the videos for courses and VIP and stuff like that. It's work. It's consistency. It's doing what people actually value versus just creating crap and putting it out there. But that to me is marketing. I actually started a second channel this year teaching business and the stuff that I do to grow my business, because that doesn't fit so much here on this channel. And you can go just Google Joe Gilder Biz over on YouTube. Search it up if you want to follow that. But yeah, it's all about creating value first. Give first, and then ask later. You still need to ask for them to listen to your thing, for them to give you money, for them to buy your thing, but you got to give value first. Now, as a musician, most musicians start with asking. They say, hey, come listen to my music. And they might say, well, it's free, or they can listen to it. They don't have to pay anything because it's on Spotify or whatever. But you're asking them to spend 5 minutes or maybe 30 minutes or more of their life, if it's an EP or an album, listening to your thing. That is you don't realize how huge of an ask that is for someone. Like, if I said, hey, I want you to, like right now, I asked you to come hang out with me on YouTube Live. That's a big ask. And so I'm going to make it really valuable for you. And I'm going to stick around for, I don't know, a couple hours maybe. But it's got to be valuable because it's a big ask to have you be here. So listening to music, I know you think your music is amazing, and maybe it really is, but it's not like your music is a gift to people in that sense. You're really asking for a favor to get them to listen. So you got to think about, are there ways I can create value around what I'm doing and the music I'm making, other than just saying, please listen, please, 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 right? I've got friends who I haven't seen as much lately because I'm not on Facebook almost ever, but they'll be dead quiet on Facebook for 2 years, and they'll put out some music, and then every post is, go listen to my album, go buy my album, support independent artists. It's like, well, you haven't done anything for me over the last 3 years. You haven't posted a video of you performing a song. You haven't posted any videos of you in the studio working on something. You haven't said, here's a new song I wrote. What do you think about this chorus? You haven't done anything except ask for me. And so that relationship, if you have a friend like that, you don't get to be very good friends, right? If all they'd ever do is ask you for favor, hey, can you give me a ride to the airport? Hey, can you give me a ride to the airport, right? but they never offer to give you a ride to the airport, that's not a great friendship. Same thing here. If you're asking your audience to listen to your stuff, but you're never providing anything else of either entertainment value or actual value, well, no wonder they're not listening. That's harsh. I feel like I was harsh. I'm a little cranky. Let me eat a Swedish fish. Make myself a little less cranky. Songweaver says, I just got the AR8C. That is a small analog mixer from Presonus. It's analog, but it's also digital, which is cool. Couldn't get the ARC to initialize. Any suggestions? It sounds like you're on a PC, so no, I don't know. Because it works on the Mac. One of the reasons I like Mac is there's not that many options for hardware, so stuff just tends to work. Sorry, not the answer you're looking for. I'm not going to chew. Hang on. Swedish fish was a terrible idea. I will not eat anymore. That's disgusting. Sorry about that. Okay. Ken Lawson wonders if the folder is the problem. That could be it. Yeah, let me show you this. That's a good one, Ken. Nice catch, Ken. So this is a Session Studio One. Doy. These purple tracks are some background vocals. This thing right here is not a track. This is a folder. It's connected to a bus. So this fader that I'm moving here corresponds to this fader on this bus, but it's technically why are you all selected? It's technically a folder. And when I record enable a track in this folder, that one also shows. It's just giving me an indication that, hey, somebody's record enabled inside of this folder. It also works the other way. If I click that, it record enables everything, which is handy to like record enable all your drum tracks without setting up a group. Just put them in the same folder when you set it up. And we're recording, and now we're not. It's handy. That could be what you're seeing. It's a problem with trying to diagnose these types of things quickly. The problem may not be the problem that you said it was. All right, Dark Metal Guy, I'm coming back up to you. I just want to double check, make sure there's any like issues. Sometimes I wonder if there's like fights breaking out later in the chat. Mucho pedo. I don't know what that means, because that means something different in English. Is it? Hold on, we got to find out. What does that mean? A lot of fart. Apparently this is what mucho pedo means. I don't even know. I don't even know what's happening anymore. All my Spanish friends, you're laughing at me now. Thank you. Well done. You got me. Oh boy. We were coming back up to Dark Metal Guy. Says, I don't know. I know it's not in your wheelhouse, but I use your tips every day in my metal mixes. It's true, because yes, I'm a acoustic guitar guy. I'm a rock guy, but balanced mixes are balanced mixes. Like you could send me like speed metal song album to mix, and I would love it, and I would make it sound good, because it's just you need to know the genre, know kind of that a clicky kick drum is kind of the thing to do in a genre like that. But otherwise, like you don't have to know a genre to be able to mix well. Anyway, do you think you could do a video on either other styles and show how you'd mix those, like metal, jazz, or electronic? Yeah, I would love to do that. The only downside is I just don't make that kind of music. And since what I do in Home Studio Corner is featuring mostly my own music, I'd have to make that music first. Now, I'm open to, inside my VIP membership, every other month we mix a song submitted by members usually. And that's a way to kind of we venture out into other genres. So if a member submitted something that I thought would work well for everyone, but my process, like my 5-step mix process, is the same, whether it's a guitar vocal or a big, 200-track film score or a over-the-top, highly produced metal song. The process I use is the same, which is why it's such, having a process makes you so much more comfortable, because you can say, oh, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. I'll just use my same process. Now, the specifics will change, but the process stays the same. It feels like having a superpower. Catalin Miklos says, would you say as an advice to songwriters, or what would you say as advice to songwriters who is on the beginning of their journey. Top one advice or wise word. On the beginning of your journey is just write songs. Listen to songs and write songs, and don't judge anything. Just write. Go write 50 songs, and see if you got one that's kind of good. Like, that's what it takes. And yes, learn. I have a songwriting course if you want to take it. That takes you like literally through my process for writing songs, because I've written songs for 30 years, 25 years or something. And after doing hundreds of songs, I've developed kind of a process that I use, and I figured out what that is and put it down into a course. But yeah, it's at homestudiocorner.com/song. But actually go to homestudiocorner.com/50, because I'll show you. Hang on. Go here and watch this video. It's a free video that actually is taken from my songwriting course. This, just get homestudiocorner.com/50. It's about a 50 song challenge I gave myself that kind of totally transformed my songwriting. Go watch that, because that'll give you some very tangible ideas you can use like right now. All right, let's switch back over so we can see the chat a little bit better. Danny the Demon says mono or stereo questions, because it seems that I use a compressor in mono. When I add makeup gain, the sound in my headphones will go from left to right of my earphones. Yeah, I don't know what that's all about. That's weird. I mean, I suppose if it's like if you're using like a stereo compressor, then I suppose that could happen because it has two channels, but it doesn't. It's not a stereo signal, so there's no point in it being stereo. You're literally using two compressors when you could get away with one. That's basically what stereo means. So there's no reason to have stereo. Unless it's the stereo sound, then that makes sense. Joe Vendors, my boy, says, got the course. Looking forward to breaking it open. Rip that cellophane off the... I'm kidding. It's not. It's digital, everybody. You just log in, and it's right there waiting for you. How to set vocals into the mix when the vocalist has a nasal sounding vocal EQ? Great question, Garrett. Let me show you. I keep being like, let's switch over, but then I want to show you something. Here's.
You're looking in the mirror.
That's not a great example. Let me find one where I'm singing a little louder. That one's not a good example either. No, don't save this. Let me find an example real quickly that I think would work. This one works. This one I'm singing it's almost kind of a country tune. Let me save it so I don't ruin whatever that file was. Nasal. This song is now called Nasal. So let's take this vocal. Man, this screen is so little, the way I've got it set up. Here's the vocal. Let's just run this vocal to the main out. So I'm going to run it, bypass all the processing I was using on my vocal bus. And let me just solo that for a second. Let's go to the chorus. So this song goes like this.
Wise men say they'll never understood. What's hard will give you more than what's easy ever could.
Grammatically, it's a weird song. What's hard will give you more than what's easy ever could. That's just the way I got it to sing it. So first thing I would do is I want to get that volume up. So I'm just going to turn up the gain at the top of the channel.
What's hard will give you more than what's easy ever could.
So thinking about terms of, back to your question, which I promptly forgot. Oh yeah, here it is. Garrett says, how do I set the vocal into the mix when the vocal has a nasal sounding vocal, EQ and or compression? So compression's doesn't really factor into it. Compression will only enhance the grossness of the nasal vocal. So like this part right here, I'm singing kind of loud and it's kind of nasally.
What's hard will give you more.
And so I've gotten to a point where when I hear that, the thing I hear that makes it kind of harsh is listen for this frequency. Listen for right there. That frequency. See if you hear it. It's like a whistly sound that's like inside my voice.
What's hard will give you more.
It's more like shh.
What's hard will give you more.
So if you can't hear it, not your fault. It's not your fault. Every time I say it's not your fault, I think of Matt Damon, Good Will Hunting. But that frequency is probably, if I had to guess, up around 2.6K. Let's find it. I'm going to turn on the auto just so it doesn't get super loud in your ears. This is going to be annoying. I'm just letting you know.
What's hard will give you more.
That's it.
What's hard will give you more.
Why does it happen? I don't know. I think it's a resonant frequency of my nasal cavities, I guess, because my voice does that. And I've found just about every voice has a somewhere in there when they're singing louder. So when I'm singing quietly, my voice is nice and warm. But when I sing loud, it gets more nasal because that's just the nature of the human voice, I guess. So for vocals that are loud, they can sometimes be nasal. And sometimes they're just nasal. But part of it is there could be some sort of ringing happening. So if we find the ring and then we pull that down.
What's hard will give you more. What's hard will give you more.
I mean, that's an aggressive EQ, but it's a little easier to listen to.
What's hard? What's hard? What's hard? What's hard?
It's a little smoother. I mean, honestly, even though that's aggressive and looks quote unquote wrong, we could maybe, let's see if we found the right frequency. Let's just move it around just a little bit.
What's hard will give you more.
All right, I'm going to turn it down because it's killing me.
What's hard will give you more than what's easy. What's hard will give. What's hard will give you more. What's hard will give you. What's hard will give you more.
Yeah, it's right there, like maybe 2.7K, just a little bit higher.
What's hard will give you more.
I don't know what it is, but we pull it down, and then suddenly the vocal.
What's hard will give you more than what's easy ever could.
I mean, you figured that out. I know, and they're probably like mixers who are like, Joe, you're an idiot. That looks terrible. But listen to it before.
What's hard?
After.
What's hard?
It still sounds like the voice. It just doesn't have that that annoys me. Now I can turn this up even more if I want to.
What's hard will give you more.
And there's nothing on that, but there's nothing else on that. There may be some compression on like the mix bus now that I think about it. But otherwise, that's it. Now, does this voice, is it have too much low end and all that? Yeah. We would go take out some low end. We'd take out a little bit of the warmth.
What's hard will give you more.
And then we'd compress it and it'd be amazing. But there's something, if you have nasal problems, take Nasonex. It's somewhere probably between 2 and 3K, maybe bigger between 1 and 4K, somewhere in there. And the answer may not be that. It may be something more gentle like this.
What's hard will give you more. What's hard will give you more.
That works too. When it's wider like this, it makes it darker because it's covering a whole bunch of frequencies, and you can end up with like a muffled sounding vocal. So if you have a sneaky suspicion there's some ringing there, that's what I would search for. And don't go searching for rings all the time. Learn to hear it first, and don't find multiple. Just find the one and take care of it. But oh man, I'm glad you asked that question, because so how does that answer your question of how do you get it to sit into the mix? The problem with the vocal like this, without that EQ, if I go try to turn it up and get it to sit on top of the mix, it hurts my ears.
What's hard?
Like that's too harsh. I started turning it up and it made me make a face. I kind of winced. But when I take care of that upper mid thing.
What's hard will give you more. What's hard?
Okay, it's not the best in the world, but it may be a little bit higher frequency, but since we're in a live stream, I'm not going to waste any more time on that. But that's the general idea. It allows me to push it up, because a lot of times the thing that makes me say that vocal's too loud and not sitting in the mix is that upper mid-range. Not always, but sometimes that's it. So if you can tame that, either with just straight EQ or maybe dynamic EQ that only kicks in when it needs to, then the vocal suddenly sits better. Good question. Good question. All right, let me see if is de-essing the same application? I don't understand the question. You can de-ess. Is Andy Metz here? What? Dude, guys, real quick. Right here. These dudes, these are like old college buddies. Oh, man. I want to go back to the Red Rose and have a writer's night. Son of a motherless goat. Good to see you, buddy. You had a baby. Did you have a baby recently? Did I make that up? Or you're going to? Congratulations, either way. Okay. Oh, that's so good. I want to like leave all of you and go hang out with Andy now. And Dr. McFarland. Okay. Let's keep going. Oh, man. Fart means pedo in Spanish. Yes, it does. I must have said fart. I don't know. I don't understand. All right, let me go. Let's work our way backwards for a little bit. I've been working my way up from the beginning. Let's work on some questions going back. Can you use a de-esser using EQ? Yeah. As long as you have a dynamic EQ, what's up, Scott Parker? You can do de-essing. So like on this vocal, if we go, if we set the EQ to something like, first let's find out where the sibilance is real quick, like.
Wise men say.
So the say is kind of right in here. So if we boost up in like there-ish, it's about 7K.
Wise men say.
There's a little sibilance there. Zach, I cannot take credit for Son of a Motherless Goat, but whoever, can someone identify where that comes from? Credit where credit is due. So then you would just turn this frequency band into dynamic EQ. And you'd say, turn it down however much.
And say.
Turn the threshold down more.
And say.
Oh, you got to turn it on. Duh.
And say. Though never understood. And say.
So you can see it's just kicking in when the S happens. That's how I would do it. I go back and forth. Because a lot of times I like to do this. I'll boost with the EQ to give it some nice air, and then I pull back with the dynamic to take care of the sibilance. So you kind of kill two birds with one very complicated stone.
And say, though never understood.
So you end up with this airiness on the vowels, and then the consonants get smacked back down with the de-esser dynamic thing that you're doing. Good stuff. By the way, this is stuff we go in deep in the course down below. Check it out. Sale ends today. You can buy it whenever, but you get it cheap today, so go grab it. Let's see. I get some vocal tracks that are recording is too hot. How do I mitigate that, if at all possible, or just resync? I mean, too hot meaning what? Are they clipping? If they're clipping, good luck. I know there's like tools you can use that maybe take the clip out of it, but better option is just sing it again. Don't clip. That's why you record at super conservative levels, because if the singer decides to go nuts and sing really loud, you got plenty of headroom to take care of it. If it has clipped, there's not much you can do about it. You can go double down on it, maybe run it through a distortion so the vocal just has this cool distorted sound, but otherwise clipping. And yes, the correct answer is the Three Amigos. If you have not seen Three Amigos, what are you doing with your life? Oh, look, it's a male plane. How can you tell? Oh, boy. Nick says, Joe, when recording, mixing a cappella parts, 4 parts, church choir, is the whole process more simple and straightforward, or are there other things to consider with it being only vocals? I mean, it's different. It's different because you got nothing to hide behind, right? Vocal kind of sits on top of the other stuff you did instrumentally, but with a cappella, you don't have anything to hide behind. So you got to get a good quality vocal, and you got to pick the parts well, because you're going to have some parts like that are handling the lows, right? And you're going to need some parts that are handling the highs and the mids. So it needs to be like a good harmony and all that. And then you got to like make sure it's the same idea. It's the same idea of like there's frequency balance, there's level balance. We're trying to balance all these things. You're just doing it with a very limited, vocals don't take up all the frequencies like drums all the way through like guitars do. Vocals are more limited. So you have more challenges. There's a lot of mid-range that you got to kind of balance out. I'll show you an example of an acapella thing I did. And I cheated by doing like a beatbox thing over the top because mainly because I thought it sounded cool, but I didn't want the vocals to be just by themselves. So this is just a 4-part harmony. I believe I did the melody, so the soprano and the bass. I sang all of them. Soprano and bass in the middle, and then the tenor and alto on the sides. I'm not sure if I panned them all the way or kept them in a little bit, but I also had a beatbox thing going in the middle to kind of fill it out. But this is what it came out sounding like if you want to hear.
Oh, sacred head now wounded, with grief and shame weighed down, now scornfully surrounded, with thorns thine only crown. Oh, sacred.
Anyway, you get the idea. But you can hear so that's a 4-part like church harmony, right? The soprano is on typically the top one. I'm singing the soprano, but I'm singing it an octave down as a dude, which means if like the notes are spread out like this, now the main melody is right there in the middle with everything else. So there's a big chance for it to be muddy. So I had to pick and choose who gets the warmth. And so the lead vocal needs to get a decent amount of warmth. The bass line needs some warmth. That means the ones on the side have to be a little thinner, and also made them not quite as bright either, so that the lead vocal could be nice and crispy. The lead vocal I wanted to sound like a normal lead vocal, and then everybody else kind of needs to support that. So it's a very different mix in that we're working from 4 tracks. And with it being like a ballad, you can have like a lot of reverb that kind of covers a multitude of sins as well. But yeah, the process in some ways is the same, but also certainly there's a lot of differences too. That's some sick harmonies. Yeah, those harmonies were written like 500 years ago. Me and old Bach doing some partnerships. Joe, first time making your live broadcast. Hey, Billy Wheeler. Would you please tell me how to enable snap back to your start position when you press? Yeah. There's a couple ways to do it. Transport. Let me zoom in a little bit. Transport. Options. Return to start on stop. I've actually mapped it to Control T because I use it all the time. And then the other option is you can right-click down in the... You can't see it. If you right-click on the transport, it shows up as an option. You can't see that. It's down below. But there you go. Alt and the number 0 will toggle that feature. Huh. Didn't know that. Andy says, do you have any strategies for achieving the 60s style, everyone singing around the same time when we're just overdubbing ourselves? You mean like a gang vocal kind of thing? Or are you saying something else? Can I ask you how to layer different sounds together? I saw a demo project in FL Studio. Mine is blowing up. It's a magic for me. How to layer different sounds? I don't know if that's a question I can answer in the sense of, that's literally what producing is. I do have a couple of answers. I cover this in depth inside my recording course, homestudiocorner.com/record, if you want to really dive deep into it. But I think of it in terms of buckets. I love the bucket analogy. When I record something, it goes into a couple different buckets. First, there's a left, center, and right bucket. Where's it going to go? I might record it first, and then I pick where it goes. Is it panned in the middle, or is it to the left or the right? I think of that during the recording session. Then I think, if it goes to the left or the right, what needs to go on the other side to balance it out? It could be another of that thing, or it could be something completely different. But I'm also thinking in terms of lows, mids, and highs buckets. So if I got like a bunch of like warm, thick keyboard and guitar parts, but there's nothing bright, then I want to layer on something bright to balance that out. I actually just did a video on this on my channel, how to layer acoustic guitars, but the concept applies to whatever. So make sure you go back and watch that one. But that's like, that'll get you started. Beach Boys. So for me, unless you really want to have everybody gathered around a mic, I would just record them separately. If you can still capture the vibe. I've done like gather everybody around, but it's really meant to be more like a gang vocal choir thing where it sounds like people in a room versus like individual parts. Yeah, I think that's what I would do. I would just record individually and maybe double everybody and then have all of those and then kind of blend them all together into some sort of reverb space if it makes sense for the song. All right, male plane scene. That's absolutely correct. All right, let's keep moving back. Can you do a video on how to set up your mixing space with colors, folders, buses, and useful plugins like metering, etc.? Yeah, go search Personas and my channel. I've got search like mixing template and my name. You'll find a bunch on that. Or take my mixing course. I actually go into that super in depth. Yep, I've already done that one. Yep. Man, I'm answering all these questions. When will VIP open back up? December. You're removing a fart from acoustic guitar vocal. I don't know. You are welcome, Jonah. Joe's mixing ideas work regardless of genre. Yeah, Barry French, one of my VIP members. He makes all kinds of heavy stuff. And it sounds fantastic and huge and massive. And yeah, it's the same concept, whether it's a bunch of pretty acoustic guitars or a bunch of sick 7-string or baritone guitars playing nasty, deep riffs. Jason says, what have I done? What did I click? Stop. Go away. Stop clicking. Click down here. Okay, Jason says, when you say a perfect mix, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Drum punchiness? Anything from that stratosphere? When I say perfect mix, I just think of something that's balanced. First of all, I think of something that moves me, something that makes me hold up that. And if that happens, then I'm good. And that could be any number of things, but really just a mix that allows me to hear a really great song and a great performance. If I listen and I notice your mix, you failed. If I listen and I'm like, oh man, that's muddy, or that vocal's weird, or there's too much sibilance on the vocal, or oh, I got to turn this down. If I do any of those things, I'm now hearing the mix. I'm not hearing the song. So our job, as much as it hurts our little egos, is to get out of the way and to just let the song be the song. I noticed this. So a few years ago, I think it was a challenge for my VIP members, I think, and I gave them. We do these challenges every other month where we basically produce a song. Sometimes you just produce your own thing. This month we're producing a cover song. Sometimes I give you a guitar vocal and you produce that however you want. Those are really fun. But there was one, it might have been a mixing challenge where I gave them one of my songs to mix as the challenge. And they had this beautiful like stereo recorded acoustic guitar. And I was surprised by how many times people jacked it up. Like raw by itself sounded pretty stinking good. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Now, this sounds like I'm bragging. I'm not bragging. I'm trying to make a point while also bragging. No, not that one. No, that's not what I want to open. Cancel. Let me show you what I'm looking at. This is not what I meant to open. Stand by. But anyway, they would take what was a really cool sounding guitar, and it was almost like they could not resist the urge to mess around with it. They couldn't resist the urge to, no, that's the wrong one too. Sorry. They couldn't resist the urge to like add EQ and a bunch of compression and like really mess with the guitar. And I just remember thinking as we listened to some of the submissions, like, that's a shame because it needed just a little bit of EQ and that's it. And they felt this need to like insert themselves into the mix more. So I ended up, instead of hearing the guitar, I ended up hearing all the stuff they did to it. So here's that guitar, just as I'm not sure if it was this guitar, but it's something similar to this. And I would get mixes where they would do things like that. To me, that's a really great sounding. I mean, that's a Gibson J45 stereo mic. Like, it's just as good as it gets. But I would get people who would just do things like, they would have mixes coming in that would like sound like this. Like it would sound like that. But then they'd go and they'd take like they like add a compressor to it. It would be, I'm not exaggerating that would be kind of the vibe of some of these mixes. Whereas you go to, here's the before, and here's the after. And there's going to be at least one comment that says, oh, I actually kind of liked it with that EQ. That's part of the problem. We have this thing, especially when you're new and a little bit maybe inexperienced. If someone boosts the high frequencies, you go, ah, and then you go boost all the high frequencies and you go, ah. And to your ears at first it sounds good, but it's not. It's exaggerated. It's too much. Easy. So if you find yourself doing a lot of processing to something that already sounds pretty good, you might be overdoing it. So that's a long answer to the question of what makes a good mix. A good mix is one I don't hear. Or if anything, I'm like, man, that drum mix is great. And that's it. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Let's see if anybody said they liked the... Okay, good. Tips on how to record a guitar, mic placement, and what kind of mic. A condenser mic. Any. Stereo if you can. That's fun. And then find the right placement for that specific guitar. My Taylor and my Gibson could not be different to record. The Taylor likes to put a mic right at the 12th fret. The Gibson is weird, and I gotta like move it and spin it and like down by the 7th fret pointed back at the sound hole if I'm using one microphone, or if I'm using two, I have two like this pointed right at the sound hole, which is like you're not supposed to do that. That's actually how I got this sound right here. And you gotta be careful that it doesn't get too boomy. But anyway, a lot of it is just spending a lot of time. Don't rush through the recording process. Like spend a day finding the right placement for your guitar. And then be willing to change things. Like if you're using a really thin pick and you're wondering why your guitars always sound thin, maybe it's because of the pick. I use really thick picks now. Like I'm on team jazz pick, like, yeah, tiny and like 6 inches thick. Not really, but that's what I like currently. Lucas says, take the recording course. It's awesome. I take a song and I produce it 3 different ways from start to finish. Guitar vocal, one with like a keyboard cello arrangement, and then like a full band rock arrangement. And then teach you all the ways like all the processes and like ways I think about production and all that as we go through. It's a blast. It's a blast. HomeStudioCorner.com/record if you're interested. How can someone who is beyond the beginner home recording experience enhance and professionalize their signal flow to resemble that of a professional home studio? I'm probably the wrong person to ask, because I don't think professionalism comes from the gear. I mean, I do have, like, this was recorded with like 2 $700 microphones through a $2,000 preamp, so I get that. I actually might have just been the Studio Live. I have guitars. To me, it's the instruments where I'll spend money. I'll spend $2,000 on some Gibson guitars because they're that good, and they give me this, right? They give me that kind of recording. But otherwise, like, AD converter has zero to do with anything. Zero. AD converter doesn't matter a lick. If you aren't making professional results, it's not because of your gear. That's what I'll say. Great gear helps. If you have really crappy gear, it can hurt you. But if you have decent gear and you're not making great results, it's your skill and potentially the musicians you're working with that are the big variable. A new converter is not going to make you better. You know, it will make you better, of course. Seriously, though, it's on sale for $147 if you buy it today. What can you buy for $147 for your studio that makes everything you do in your studio sound better? Nothing, but that will. Why is this? Okay. Develop your own mix template and follow a consistent set of steps every time. Yeah, for the mixing side, but for the recording side, that doesn't help at all. And a lot of people here's the thing that you'll hear me say a million times, but we got to say it here. If you are struggling with your mixes and you haven't given any thought to the fact that it might be your recordings, it's probably your recordings. What I found is people, they will be like, man, I hate mixing. I struggle so much. And they'll take my mixing course and they'll learn a lot. Then they'll eventually download the tracks that I give, because I give you like 50 songs to mix, and they'll import just one song into their session, just listen to the raw tracks, and they'll email me. I get this over and over again. I call it the aha moment. They'll say, Joe, your raw tracks sound better than any mix I've ever done. And I will say, that's the point. That's why I say get it right at the source. Here they come, the Gear Rats acronyms in the chat. Because that's the secret. That's the dirty secret of this whole world. If you make it sound amazing without any plugins, if you put in that hard work, suddenly you're good at mixing, because you're not fixing a bunch of crap all the time. Okay, I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. You better believe I talk about that inside of the new vocal course, though. If you're just joining us, I have a new course. It's called Pro Vocal Production Playbook. The link's down there. It launches this week. Today's the last day to get it for half price. So go grab it. Right down there. Right over there. Go grab it. You can't click it. You got to type that in. There's actually should be a link in the description, too, if you're feeling extra lazy. Mixing, get it right at the source tracks is heaven. Mark, you're right. You're right. And the takeaway should be, how do I also make my track sound that way? Do you use top-down mixing on every mix? So here's the thing. Top-down mixing is just a philosophy. It just means that I give a nod to the buses before I go to the individual tracks. It doesn't mean that I do heavy compression on the bus before I go in. It just means I take a minute to say, is there any... Stuart. It's to me, it reminds me of the Name That Tune game show. I never watched it, but it was like the idea of like, I can name that tune in 3 notes. For me, it's like, I can mix those drums in 3 plugins on the drum bus. Can I do that? And so I'll check to see if I can on the bus. Sometimes the answer is yes. Most of the time the answer is no, not quite. I got it a decent sound. Now I need to go work on the individual tracks. But and sometimes I just say, you know what, we got to go fix some of those tracks first, which is why step 3 in my process is to go fix those first before doing any top-down mixing. But then top-down, it's top and down. I'm not just focusing down on the individual tracks. I'm thinking from the bus level first and saying, kind of, what's the lay of the land here? This sounds pretty good. Overall, these guitars are a little muddy. Is it just one guitar, or is it just the guitars as a whole? And when I answer that question, then I go fix it. If the answer is it's the guitars as a whole, I'll EQ all the guitars with like a cut in the low mids. If the answer is it's that one guitar, it's that one fuzz guitar that's too muddy, then I'll go EQ that. Does that make sense? So it's really, honestly, top-down mixing is a bit more advanced because you got to be good at listening and finding problems and going and solving them. But once you develop that skill, it becomes a process where you can mix songs in 20 minutes if you need to, because now you know what you're listening for, and you're literally listening and saying, okay, I hear 3 people raising their hands with problems. Let's fix those 3 problems and we're good. Like, sometimes that's all it takes. You don't have to do something on every track. Do what needs to be done. And Stuart, yes, I do have a new course. It's right below. There's a link and everything. By the way, I know people don't like to be sold to. The only reason I do what I do is one of the reasons, not the only, one of the reasons I do what I do is I love music. I cannot imagine not creating music. And I love doing what I do here, where I share my process for creating music. And a part of that is creating courses like this. If you can't afford it, if it doesn't make sense for you, that's great. That's why the YouTube free content is here. What do we do the math on it? 700 plus free videos here on the channel. Those are for you, for free. Enjoy them, take advantage of them, 100%. If you want to go deeper, a handful of you will. Right down there. That's how you do it. Maybe fall in love with your music and you have a good time. Is that your music that good, though? I'm not quite sure I follow your question. If you're not in love with your music, yeah, you should probably make it better. Do you use a sub in your mixes? And if not, how do you accurately assess your low end? That's a good question. Andy, I've never used a subwoofer, but I've always had studio monitors that at least go down low enough for me to hear what's happening down at like 50. So I typically think of like 6-inch speakers being the minimum. You can make it work with 5, but there's like that little bit of lowest octave you can't quite hear with a 5-inch speaker. So like I've got the Persona Scepters. For years I had the the M Audio EX66s that had two 5 or 6 inch monitor, like woofers. They were stacked. It was massive, but it had a big low end to it. I'm not against subwoofer. I've just not felt like the need. If you have a decent set of monitors that goes down to like 40, that's fine. You know, check the spectrum meter when you're mastering to make sure there's not some crazy rumble that somebody with a subwoofer is going to hear. But otherwise, I've not felt the need for it. And the added thing, we're all in home studios, so a subwoofer is going to pump a bunch of more low frequencies into your room. Rooms typically don't love that, and unless your room's treated to handle that well, you may be causing more problems than you're solving. That's my thought. And there's just so many cases of like these big name pro engineers who are using, 5 and 6 inch monitors, and that's it. And headphones, right? Like if Andrew Sheps makes a great record on a set of freaking Sony MDR 7506 headphones, then, none of us have excuses anymore. Jim O'Connor says, what do you think about those software plugins that are supposed to take the coloration out of your headphones so you don't have to use monitors? Do they work? I mean, I'll never not use monitors because I enjoy monitors. I also hate having headphones on for long periods of time. Even these Sennheiser 7506s, these Sennheiser HD650s, they are ancient. They are falling apart like the paint is chipping. I bought them in 2010. Look, I put Gilder 2010 on them. And I think the woofer on one of them is blown, or the driver or whatever. These are really comfortable. Even that, I just don't like having headphones on all that much for long periods of time. So what do I think about software that like models that? I mean, if it helps you, great. I know Slate seems to think their headphone thingy is like the best thing since sliced bread, and a lot of people seem to agree. So I won't disagree. Just like stuff that measures your room and tunes your room, I'm sure it's great. But there are a lot of people who can make great music in a room that's not tuned. You just got to learn how to do it. I don't know. I am a minimalist in a lot of ways. If I can get it done with the smallest amount of gear and stuff in between, that's the route I'm going to go for, to my detriment. Stuart has a sub. Turns it on for about 30 seconds at the end of the mix. That thing's going to last forever, at least. My headphones have duct tape on them because duct tape. Right. I forgot, of course. 8 Quantum HD 8 gang. Any new videos about it soon? Maybe. I don't have one. I didn't ask them to send me any of the new Quantums. Honestly, making interface videos is really boring, and I love my Studio Live, even though it's dented and dirty. I love you. And it gets very hot. It's very warm. It's a good hand warmer in the wintertime. He says, bro, what? Those headphones are $99. The MDR 7506s, yeah, they're like $100. They've been $100 headphones as long as I've known about them for, 20, 30 years, but 25 years. These headphones are like $300. But another thing, another piece to consider, if you don't have money for decent, like if these are, when I bought them, they were $500. I think they're like $300 now. You may think, bro, that's a lot for headphones. Well, $300 won't get you much if you're spending that on studio monitors. So you could argue this is a better sound than $300 monitors, and then save your money for, a little bit better, bigger monitors, or just don't go monitors. But also, like, even $100 headphones can get the job done. You got to learn how to mix on them. But what do you think of the online AI mastering service? I'm a hobbyist. Well, everybody that I talk to is a hobbyist, by the way. So you're not unique there, but I've not messed with it, honestly. I like mastering, so I master my stuff. And I have a course teaching mastering too, of course. So I think it can work. I don't think it's going to, if your mix is pretty terrible, then the AI mastering is not going to do you many favors. But I'm sure it's fine and is probably getting better. A couple years ago, back when Graham Cochran was still running Recording Revolution, he did, this is a couple years ago, it's probably gotten a lot better, but he used, I believe it was Lander, and he mastered something himself and ran it through Lander. And he sent me the two and didn't tell me which one was which, and just wanted my feedback on both. which is always a trick. He told me what he was doing, but he didn't tell me which one was which. So I listened to both, and neither was like bad, but I liked his better. His felt more punchy. His felt more like clear, and like it just kind of it checked all the boxes for me. Whereas the other one felt a little more, I think it felt a little brighter maybe, and not quite as punchy, maybe a little too loud. So yeah, but that was 10 years ago, so it may very well be that it's amazing now. I don't know. That's the thing. I love doing what I do, so I'm gonna keep doing it. Just like I could probably at some point have AI sing my songs, but I want to, so I'm gonna keep doing it. Jim says, do you have any recommendations? By the way, so I'm kind of in the current chat. If you have any questions that I didn't get to, type them again, because I can't go through the long list anymore. So retype it, I will get to it. Jim says, do you have any recommendation for best bang for your buck studio monitors? The PreSonus Aris, hold please. Hold on, let's switch over here. If you go to old Sweetwater, when I worked at Sweetwater, somebody called in and asked, yeah, somebody told me to call Sweetwater. Like, wait, what now? It's sweet, not sweat. Sweetwater just is disgusting. So the Aris line, they've got a bunch. They've got these little cute little Bluetooth ones. Don't get those. The Aris Studio, if I had to buy a pair, I'd get the 6-inch. I'd probably get, these are pretty cool. I'd probably get this a 6.5-inch. So there's these. They're 5 1/4 inch for $200. If that's all the money you have, these are cool. They just don't have a lot of headroom to them. So like you can't really, the bass will like crap out pretty quickly because it's just a smaller like amplifier. So if it was me, best bang for the buck is probably to spend $500 on a pair of like those, right there. Something like that. Or something along that ilk, where it's maybe a 6-inch woofer, and the more money you're spending, it's going into things like having an actual amplifier that has some actual headroom to it. Smaller speakers with smaller amplifiers, they almost sound like there's a limiter there. So I have these Scepters that I've had forever. There was a season where I had to loan these to somebody, and so I had a different pair here that didn't have as powerful of an amp, and I felt like my mixes were like they were straining on those. At the same volume, they were like, it felt like they were hitting a limiter more. I didn't like it. Whereas these just feel like they have lots of headroom. They can take whatever I throw at them, if that makes sense. These are I don't even know if they make them anymore, honestly. PreSonus Scepter. Yeah, they do. I don't know if they're discontinued or I forget what's happening with them, but like these are the ones I have. So that's $1,200 for a pair versus $500. So that's a significant difference. But that's part of what you're paying for. Also, the woofer and the tweeter are coming out of the same place, which is called coaxial speaker alignment, which I learned, which is a word. Anyway, there you go. But for every answer I give, there are 17 answers that are just as valid. People are saying those Callies are cool. I am sure they are. That's the thing. I did an interview recently, and he was asking me all my favorite things. I'm like, I don't care. Like, favorite pieces of gear. And I was just like, I just don't care. Like, my favorite mic is the one in front of me right now. This is a Earthworks Ethos, by the way, that they sent me for free. And I was like, it looks cool and it sounds cool. Great. Then like I buy stuff and then I use it till it dies. And then I research and find, and I hate that part. I don't like researching, and I just want to use the stuff and make the music. Do you use SonarWorks? Nope. They actually sent it to me for free. The microphone is in that one of those cabinets over there. I literally never installed it. I'm sure it's great. I just don't feel the need. I just don't feel the need. And maybe that's me being stubborn and curmudgeonly. And maybe it's hurting me. Mayhaps that's the case. I just don't want to do it. I don't want one extra piece of software that always has to run. I just don't. Do portable mic isolation filters really help to justify their cost? Or would I be better off putting that money into acoustic panels for my space? I think the correct answer here is just build yourself, or have someone build you a couple of gobos. Like, I can't show them to you, but imagine a wooden frame that's 3 feet wide. 4 feet wide and 7 feet tall, made with like 2x4s. And then it's got insulation that's like 4 inches thick, and it's covered with a black blanket or a black like sheet. That I've got 2 of those that I had a guy build me, and they actually at the bottom of them have like a board that goes this way with casters, and they roll around. The casters broke on that one, so it just leans up against the wall, and another one's right here to my left. So I keep them left and right of mix position, acting as like my absorption for my speakers to make this area feel pretty dead. But then if I record vocals, actually I just record them right here between those 2. So I don't have to treat the whole room. It's really just those 2. I've got carpet, which helps. I've got bass traps back there. I've got a few absorption panels over there. But no, a single thing surrounding your microphone acting like it's going to pretend the room doesn't exist, no, that's not a thing. Can it help if all other things being equal, if the room sounds pretty good, will that help a little bit? I don't know. Maybe. But you get more mileage out of a couple of big gobos that act as your side panels for your mix position, and then also act as like a little bit of baffling for whatever you're recording, guitar, vocals, whatever. To me, that's more useful than a single thing that surrounds the microphone that I can only use for that. Laziness for the win. How do you feel running compressors in series? First at 12-1 and then a second at 4-1. I like compressors in series, but I like the first one at like 4-1, catching the peaks, doing like some of the heavy lifting so the loud sections get turned down, quiet sections don't get touched as much. And then I like a second one doing that butter compression that I talked about in a recent email, and then I show inside the course, which you can buy right there at this link right here, where it's basically like a super low, the threshold's all the way down and the ratio is like barely turned up. So it's just kind of compressing everything lightly all the time, and it just brings this smoothness that is just delightful. Just delightful. I learned that from Kevin Ward. He told me about it at a Starbucks, and I was like, oh, I have to go try this. And he was right. It was amazing. I love your content, Joe. You're the gift that keeps giving. Greetings from Ireland. Well, thank you, Darren. I want to come to Ireland. I need you and Akko and whomever else to tell me where I should go, because I'm guessing if I just show up, I won't know where to go. Question, any advice on how to improve skills at building your vocal chain in the mix? I feel like I'm just guessing and getting random results. Rick, I don't mean this in any sort of condescending or smart aleck way, but that's literally why I made this course, for people who are stuck with their vocals, both on the recording and the mixing side. I mean, but part of the answer is just practice. A part of the answer is, do you have a sort of a system, or do you feel like you're kind of randomly twisting knobs and hoping and praying for the best? If it's the latter, you could use having someone show you the ropes. Now, that can mean just go through one of my, oh, yeah, you just bought the course. That's it then. It's going to teach you a process and a way to think about it, a way to listen and know, okay, what am I hearing? What do I apply next? Maybe it's EQ. If so, then what are the different frequency buckets the vocal lives in? Which one is misbehaving that I can deal with? Then, is it ready for compression? Okay, it is. How we set up a compressor? Oh, we do it like this. Why? Because of these and these reasons. What's a byproduct of compression? Oh, you might have this and this happen. It might bring up some of the consonants and some of the other noises you don't like. It might cause sibilance to happen. So then we have a process for dealing with those byproducts. Vocal, more than almost anything else that you mix, has like it feels like whack-a-mole. You solve one problem and 2 more pop up, and you got to be aware that that's going to happen. And if you are aware of it, then it becomes a very simple process, although most of my vocal chains have several plugins in them, more so than really anything else that I mix, which is what makes vocals so frustrating sometimes. But you can get to a point where it's like, great. How would you go about taming high end? My S sounds always come out sharp no matter what I try. You have been too timid with your de-esser, and or you're de-essing the wrong frequency. People, let me show you. Well, this, let me switch over here.
Everybody out there, you're running from your shadow.
All right, so this is a vocal. Captain Obvious over here. I'm going to throw a compressor on here. Pretty aggressive just to demonstrate, okay? This is a demonstration. Let's go 4-1-ish. Okay, 5.8-1. Let's compress it.
You're running from your shadow, but it goes wherever you go.
Getting like 12, 13 dB of gain reductions will boost by 12.
You're running from your shadow, but it goes wherever you go. You're running out of time.
Okay, so sibilance is like the S's and T's. It's the consonant sounds that have a lot of high frequencies to them.
Everybody out there's got it all together.
I'm trying to see if I can find a good S.
And you'll never
Let's go to verse 2.
looking in the mirror and all you
Okay, here's a good example.
so you isolate. So you isolate.
So you isolate. Those S's.
So you isolate.
Everything else is nice and in your face, and like the compressor's like it's doing me good, except it's emphasized those S's and T's. So it's taming the vowels and emphasizing the consonants, which can be cool and useful unless the S's and T's become too much, which is why we have de-essers. And I already showed one way to do that. Let's do it with just the de-esser plugin. Now, there's no EQ on here, so this is just an example. But with the de-esser, it defaults to like 6.8K. We can listen to make sure we're messing with the right frequencies first.
So you isolate.
Yeah, that seems to be, it's emphasizing the s's. And then we just bring the S reduction down. Here's the mistake people make. They pull this thing down.
So you.
They say, okay, I de-essed it. I'm done. But look at how much de-essing's happening.
So you.
They're like, yeah, I was doing like 3 dB of de-essing. Typically that's not enough. So people de-ess with their eyeballs instead of their earballs. So you got to use your earballs and like use your ear, like close your eyeballs and only listen with your earballs. So turn this down until it sounds like I have a lisp and then turn it back up.
So you isolate.
I just sounded like the ladies' man. Did you hear that when I said isolate?
So you isolate.
So you isolate. Y'all need to stop all that isolating.
So you isolate.
It's just,
Isolate.
don't you isolate me. Okay, so that's too far. So let's bring it back to where the S is sitting right there with the vocal and not sticking out as far.
Isolate. 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 Isolate.
Okay, now that S is just normal. It just feels like I'm hearing an S. It's being turned down by about 6 dB, but now the vocal feels more normal.
So you isolate.
And then you just kind of go about your day, and if you come back later and say it's still poking out a little bit more, you just come bring this down a little bit more. And maybe you adjust the frequency or something like that, but that's the answer is people tend to, or at least one answer, people tend to go timid on the de-essing.
So you isolate.
And for heaven's sake, stop isolating. Goodness gracious. Isolate. That's how you spell isolate. Yes. Oh, don't you ever isolate. And be sure to use Studio One. Now I just sound like Mike Tyson. Okay. Can you speak your choice of Studio One over other DAWs? Mm-hmm. I was a Pro Tools guy. I grew up on Pro Tools, learned it in college. I was fast. I could edit and do all the things. And then after college, and I'd worked at Sweetwater, where I could have any software I wanted basically for free. Worked on Logic for about a year. That was kind of cool. Went back to Pro Tools, moved back to Nashville, worked for a rep firm, and one of the doing like part-time work for a while. And one of their brands was PreSonus, so I had to learn Studio One just to kind of be able to talk about it. And I fell in love with it. It won me over away from Pro Tools, and no one was trying to win me over. It was intuitive. It did a bunch of things for me that I didn't have to go do myself. Pro Tools is very engineer-y. If you want something done, you got to go do it yourself. Studio One is very, how can I help you? How can I anticipate your needs? That was how I felt using it. There's a lot of specifics, but that was the main crux of the matter. Thoughts about treating your ceiling. I've been meaning to. I bought those little eye bolts to hang some things right here. My ceiling is slanted. So part of me is like, all the sound is getting kind of redirected to the floor, which is carpet. So part of me is like, I'm good. If it wasn't slanted, I might hear it more, but the slanted thing actually, I think, really helps. Acco, I'm staying at your house. Deal. Niall says, I gave up on de-essers. I got time. I use clip gain. That's an option. You just go find the S's look very specific, and you just go find them and turn them down. That's fine. I'm a little too lazy for that, so I use the tools to do it. Do you have any videos on spoken word stuff? I feel like I'm always toying with compression, multivent, limiters, etc. Yes, I do. I just made one that's coming out next month. Wow, you guys are like in my head. I just made one. It's coming out on Personas' channel sometime in the next month. So I just delivered my November batch of videos to them. I'll give you a secret. My vocal chain for spoken word is as follows. EQ, then limiter. Then you're done. That's my chain. That's what you're hearing right now. This is going into a limiter with a little bit of EQ. And that's it. And the EQ, if you're curious, sounds like this. I take it off. This is it. Without the EQ, my guess is it's pretty boomy because this mic's got a lot of low end to it and maybe a little nasally. And then this is with the EQ on, and then that just gets pushed into a limiter. And we can all go have a sandwich, right? Right? Okay, it's getting to be time where I need to take a little bathroom break. Do you have any song requests you'd like me to play? Preferably one of mine so I don't get like a copyright strike. But and I will go use the restroom and come back and continue to answer your questions. Doug Harrell says, Joe, I love our videos. Your content is helpful when applying reverb and delay. Thank you, by the way. Do you suggest delay or reverb first? So I think I disagree with the question because I don't apply sandwich, right? I don't apply reverb and delay directly to the vocal. I send it, right? So if we switch back over, my mixing template, shoot, this one doesn't have it. Such a liar sometimes. Let's just make a new one. A new song with my mixing template. You'll notice it's got, these are my buses, these are my effects. And so I've got a room reverb, a plate reverb, a slapback delay, a short delay, and a long delay. They're just kind of pre-baked, sitting there waiting for me to do something. So if I decide I want to send the vocal to reverb, I pick the reverb, and then I send to it. And then if I want to do something to the delay too, like a slapback delay, I send to it. And then these are kind of independent. They're kind of parallel. I can adjust the level of each, and they're both coming on their own channel. Now, you can combine them, right? You can have a single channel over here. I just pointed with the wrong finger. Over here that has like a reverb and delay on it. That's interesting. If I were to do that, like trying to build this like one multi-effect, I'd probably do delay first so that each of the delays, if it's a longer delay that has lots of repeats, so that each of the delays gets a little reverb on it. Versus a reverb that's being delayed, to me, that doesn't seem like that'd be as fun. So unlike my pedal board, reverb's always at the end. Delays are before that, typically. So I guess I did have an answer to your question. Because pedal boards, you don't do sends. You just do it all serial. Cereal. I've got some Chex in the cabinet, in the pantry. That's even better than a sandwich. You ever eat some Chex with some milk in a bowl? Yes. Would love to hear one of your tunes that is chill or ephemeral so we can hear how you use space. I got you. I got one that I haven't released. If you've taken my recording course, you've heard it. So it's a bit of a spoiler alert, but I never actually released it anywhere because I wanted it to be in the recording course. So I'm gonna let you hear it. It is, I'm never gonna find it though. I can't even find my own music. Why is there an untitled folder? Why is there a folder called hard drive? I don't even know. I'm doing great. Not that one. Not that. Not the Stare Down EP. Where did I put it? Hold on. Oh, where did I? Oh, man, now I got to go find them. Sorry, I'm going to find this. Is it in this folder? No, you know where it is? It's in the folder that I made for that course. Isn't it? Boy, doing great with your organization, Joe. Look, these are all the courses in the recording course, by the way, all the videos. Nope. I'm going to find it. It's going to be glorious. We're just going to have to do a search. It's called Lies, but it's the medium version. Well, there's that. Oh, you know what? I mastered it in the mastering course. It's in the mastering course folder. That's why. Yeah, there we go. Give me a second. I'm going to find it. You're going to love it. This is like one of my favorite versions of anything I've done. There's cello involved, and it's very like laid back. So let's go. Play on. Oh my gosh, no, I don't have play on. Joe's Final Masters. Here they are. Found it. It's the ballad version. That's it. Hold on. It's got to download from Dropbox. Sorry. Thanks for sticking with me. That took longer than it was supposed to. All right. This is a song called Lies. This is what I'm calling my medium production version of it, which features some cello and a bunch of keyboards and a bunch of like ambient stuff. Here it comes. Enjoy. I'll be right back.
I need to stop listening to voices in my head, but they're on to something. Yeah, they're on to something. I need to stop hanging on to every word they've said, but they're on to something. Yeah, they're on to something. Not something to believe in, but they're beautiful. I need to find a ceiling. I need to be content. I'm on something. Yeah, I'm on something. But when I chase this feeling, the longing won't relent. I'm on something. Yeah, I'm on something. Oh, their lies, they're not something to believe in, but they're beautiful. But their lies, they'll destroy me from within. But they're beautiful. There's a truth in front of me. I know that it will set me free. There's a truth in front of me. I know that it will set me free. Set me free from the lies. They're not something to believe in, but they're beautiful. But their lies, they'll destroy me from within. But they're beautiful. Yeah, they're beautiful. They're beautiful.
thank you for the bathroom break. Sponsored by myself. The old bladder was full. I did. I washed my hands and everything. So let's, I'm cool to hang out a little bit longer if y'all want to hang out. If you're just joining me, you may have noticed at the bottom of the screen, there are words. I am actually in the process of just finishing up, launching a new course called the Pro Vocal Production Playbook. And it's basically essentially 11 hours of me, as if you sat down with me for 2 days and I took you through my whole vocal process. The way I think about vocals, the way I record them. I record a vocal, I do a vocal recording session for you all on camera. And then the way I go through the actual recording process, because there's lots of different ways that you can go about recording a vocal, the way I go about comping, editing, tuning, and then of course mixing the vocal. I love to sing and I love to do vocals, and I've gotten really good at it. So people ask me questions about vocals all the time. So hence the course. And to celebrate launching the new course, it's on sale for half price. It is, if you buy it today, it's $147 at the link there. It'll be available in the future, but of course now's the time to get it real cheap like. And if you have already gotten it, leave a comment so people know that I'm not some shyster, and that I'm looking in the chat and I see so many people who have gone through a lot of my courses. I see Scott Parker, I see Mike Obaugh, I see Stuart Doherty, I see Lucas Wigington. I give you a 1-year guarantee. So if it doesn't work out for you, you just get your money back. Easy peasy. Jay Clinton, thank you. Shane, thank you. Thank you. You're the best. All right, Lucas. Oh, Lucas is answering, and Mike are answering Gooey's question. Where you at, Gooey? There we are. I have a few guitars doing different things, bass and vocals. So a couple guitars, bass and vocals. Listening to individual tracks, none of them is even close to clipping the output, but now altogether, they do by several dB. What to do? This is easy. My latest video, go watch it. The solution is simple. Turn up your speakers or your headphones. Whatever you're using to listen, turn them up and then turn everything else down. It's that easy. It doesn't matter what they're doing individually. You could have 100 tracks that barely have any sound, but they add up. It's a math problem. It's an addition problem. So they're adding up to clipping. That's all that means, right? The more tracks you have, the quieter they each have to be to make sure things aren't clipping at the mix bus. So the answer is just turn them down, and you're going to say, but that's too quiet. Then that next answer is turn up your volume. It's literally the volume knob that you use for your speakers or your headphones. Turn that up to get it to a volume that's comfortable for you when the tracks are low enough to where they're not clipping. That is, it's gain staging is kind of what we're talking about here. Although that phrase, people misuse that phrase. It doesn't mean it's like the Princess Bride. There's you keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. When I say gain staging, I just mean knowing how volume affects everything and where are all the places I can adjust the volume on this voice, because there's a lot. I could just talk quieter or louder. There's the preamp. There's the EQ, the compressor. They both adjust the gain. There's the fader. Then that's just here in the analog world, sort of. It's a digital mixer, but you get what I'm saying. And then in the mix, there's 1,000 other places where you could adjust the volume. So, but one of those people forget is just turn your speakers up, because you keep pushing your mixes up louder because you want to make it nice and loud, but it's clipping. So the only right answer is turn your speakers up so that it sounds to you nice and loud with those faders lower. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, because no other solution will actually solve your problem. I was going to say, you could put a plug in, because of the way digital audio works. You could put a plug in like Mix Tool. I'm going to show you something. Hang on. I don't have anything on this session. Let me go back to this guitar vocal thing that we were working on. Check this out. This is wild. Let me run this guitar and vocal. This is a little experiment that you can run on your own system. Add bus for selected channels. So I've got guitar, vocal. There's a kick drum too. Let's just go ahead and run that to the bus as well. So I've got this bus 1. And bus 1, everything's running through this bus, correct? And then this bus is feeding my mix bus. We all on the same page so far? Okay. Check this out. I'm going to add And if I hit play right now, volumes are probably decent. There's nothing. Okay. The volumes are there. It's maybe a little quiet, but it's certainly not clipping, right? Check this out. I love this so much. So I'll explain what I'm doing. I'm adding Mix Tool. Mix Tool is a plugin that, of many things, allows me to just add some gain. So let's just add as much gain as humanly possible. 20 dB of gain, sure. Let's do it again. And let's do it again. What's 24 times 3? Is that 96? No, 92? 24 times 3, no, 78. Anyway, let's say there's a lot of gain. If I were to hit play right now, it would clip everything. I'm going to turn this down so you don't hear it, but here's when I hit play. Right? We clipped our mix bus 5,600 times. We turned it up a little too much. Check this out. 72. Thank you. It's hard to do math on the spot. Or if you're mentally deficient like I apparently am. All right. So I'm going to come over here, and on my mix bus, I'm going to add Mix Tool and just do the opposite. So minus 24, minus 24, minus 24. So we've increased it by 72. 24 by 3 is the opening to Back to the Future. Is it? We've increased it over here, and then we've decreased it over here. If I hit play, okay, we can see there's no clipping. What if I bring the volume up?
To be broken.
And if I turn these off, what does that sound like? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I clicked it too early. I'm very, very sorry. The limiter caught that, but I'm sorry. I apologize. All I'm demonstrating, I accidentally hit it while audio was playing. I turned the thing back on. Stuart, final warning. Anyway, point being, I added 72 dB of gain. As long as I reduce it at the end of the chain, the internal mix engine has its floating point. So it's not just 24 bits or even 32 bits. It's like 64 bit, and then it's floating point, which means the zero mark moves. So it's all like relative. So I could add 1,000,000 dB of gain. As long as I turn it back down later, it doesn't clip internally. The internal mix bus does not clip. Anyway, that's it. Stuart, you're killing me, Smalls. Yeah, my bad, y'all. That's my fault. I should have been more careful with your ears, with your ear balls. Let me turn these off so I don't ruin anything. Anyway, when I first did that experiment, I expected it to come out sounding super crunchy and super distorted. Because I would assume, oh, if you do that on a console, like an analog console, the actual bus, the wires are going to like clip because it only has so much volume there. But I just lost my train of thought. David's saying a great low end on that song, all synth bass. You mean the one I played while I was in the potty? That is some synth bass and then like orchestral bass, like contrabass samples. But yes, I don't think I played actual bass guitar on that at all. Yep, I don't know what I just did to this. I broke it. All right, cool. Cool. If you're stuck and don't want it complicated, get it. Vocals are hard. Vocals are so important and so challenging. That's why, like, when I was sitting kind of a few months ago thinking, like, what is it? What are the questions people are asking that I've not answered, like, super in depth yet? And I've covered vocals in my other courses in pieces, right? But something like we can go all in just on vocals. And anyway, that was the answer, was vocals. When I do a video on vocals, people are like, it's like they're just drawn to it. Like moths to a flame. Any other questions for me? I can call it a wrap. I've only been at it for an hour and 50 minutes. Thoughts about IK Multimedia ARC Studio Advanced Room Correction System. Well, I talked about that earlier. Same as like the people asking about the what's it called? The other one that I mentioned earlier. I'm not against it. I'm sure it's cool. I just personally have not felt like I need it. Especially the hassle of setting it up and then always making sure it's on whenever I'm listening to something. I don't like that. That annoys me. Any new Joe Gilder music coming? I'm working on a Christmas tune with my kiddos. It won't be a kid song. It'll be me. And then my kids will play and sing on it a little bit. It was SonarWorks is what I was thinking about. SonarWorks. Do you have a favorite real-time pitch monitor? No. I don't even know what that is. Like something that shows me what my pitch is while I'm singing? I don't want to know that. I can listen to it afterward. Darren Devereaux says, just purchased your course. Thank you. I wanted to enroll in a course for a while. This came at the perfect time as I'm about to release my first solo project. Awesome. Very cool. It's great that you've got you're already in the process and working. Because when you're learning new things, it's great to go try it on something that you've poured your heart into. It's awesome. Love that. Thank you. Excuse me. Hi from Scotland. Joel, any hits on mixing keys or any videos about that? Sorry, it's my lame Scottish accent. Mixing keys. I mean, so here's the thing. Keys, it's the same as anything. Sorry, that sounds condescending. That's not what I mean. I mean, the cool thing about learning how to mix is that eventually you kind of can handle anything. You could send me a hurdy-gurdy album. I've never mixed hurdy-gurdy, but I bet I could do it because it's just, I know the frequencies between 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz. I know what balance sounds like, and so now I just go about achieving that. So keys, when I think about keys, I think about mid-range because keyboards, they can have a lot of low end and low mids, sure, but it feels like pianos especially and piano type instruments, they're kind of, a lot of their core tone is like 500 to 800 hertz, which is very mid-range, which by itself doesn't sound very good, but that's kind of that kind of soft alto sound of a piano. That's where it is. So I'm aware of that. So I'm making sure that that's heard, but it's also not too prominent. I'm also, if you're combining multiple keyboards, it's not unlike combining multiple guitars. They're all going to have the same basic fundamental frequency, so they're all going to want to get muddy down in the low mids. Or if they're like buzzy synthesizers, they're all going to have some upper mid stuff that they're going to compete with each other. So when people talk about mixing, they typically talk about like carving space I just did a video on this, carving space for various instruments. Like if I'm gonna cut this frequency on this instrument so I can boost that frequency on that instrument. What they're really longing for is instruments that were recorded that complement each other. So instead of recording all warm guitars, they record some bright ones too to spread the love around. So it's not just one group of frequencies getting all the love. That would be doing something like that when you're recording your keyboards. Because you can have lots of keys just like you can have lots of guitars. You just got to be, especially because keyboards are such full frequency instruments, you got to be careful not to have 17 full frequency things happening because then they're all going to just be sitting on top of each other. Do beginners like myself possibly need it for my room? I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. I don't know your room. I've been doing this for a long time and I've been teaching people for a long time and people haven't come to me and said, I was terrible at mixing until I got ARC and now my mixes are amazing. I've never heard anyone say that. I have heard people say I was terrible at mixing and then I took your mixing course and now I'm good at, or I was terrible at mixing and I focused on getting my recordings better and now I'm good at mixing. Those are real things. I've just not seen that be the thing. If you're thinking that's your salvation of why your mixes aren't working, mix on headphones for 3 months and see if your mixes get better. If not, then you know for a fact it's not your room, right? Because headphones take the room out of the equation. You can literally test it yourself. Zach D, what's the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? 12, I think. Shane, do you do one-on-one mentoring? Email me. I do that more in my other business, which is around like marketing and coaching and business coaching stuff. But the Reaper blog, guys. John, so good to see you. Guys, Reaper blog. For those of you who use Reaper, I'm sure you already know John Tidy. But he's like, John, I've known in the audio space, John's the guy I've known the longest. Home recording show, like literally was a huge part of Home Studio Corner's like origin story. I didn't know anybody. I had nobody following me. I reached out to John and Ryan. I was like, hey, what can I think I was just like, hey, your show's great. Can I do anything for you? Like super generic and probably annoying. And they were like, why don't you come on the show? And that was really, really huge for me in Home Studio Corner. So John, thank you. I am very grateful. I'm getting like emotional now. I know we've never met in real life, have we? We need to. I should just come to Canada at some point. Anyway, you're the best. Good to see you here. Anyway, scale 1 to 10, how annoying are the Reaper users you run into? Maybe I annoy them and they don't run into me. I know if they don't tell me they're Reaper users otherwise. If anything, I'll see people being like, I'll show something that I think is really cool in Studio One and they'll be like, yeah, Reaper can do that. Or, yeah, Reaper could do that like 10 years ago. And I'll say, yeah, I believe it. I don't know Reaper at all, but I respect the platform and the user. That feels, I may be wrong, it feels like a hacker community. In the best way. Like I like to think in another life I would be like a coder or a programmer, and like I would go super deep into that world. Proud of you for sticking to it. You too, brother. We've been around for a long time. We're like grandpas in the audio YouTube content space. Is that Chill Acoustic? Goodness gracious. I don't know what I keep clicking, but it's annoying the crap out of me. Is that Chill Acoustic version of It's Okay you were just playing available anywhere? And the version of Lies that played during the break? No. This chill version was like, I was thinking about doing like, this was one of our recent VIP challenges, and I built a little drum beat, and then I never did anything further with it. So, no. But the original version is pretty chill. And this is just the guitar and vocal and like a simple drum loop, because my drum loop skills are off the chain. By the way, if you've asked a question and I've not answered it and it's not currently on the screen, go ahead and ask it again, because I've given up being able to scroll up and find them. This is Doug, do you find using different mics makes you sing a vocal differently? For instance, condenser mic softer and dynamic mic harder and gutsy? Somewhat. To me, it's not so much the type of mic as it is, am I putting my face on it or not? So like this mic, this is the PD70 from Personas. Very SM-ish, and it's super beat up. Like, I don't know if they use weird paint, but it looks like vintage. It's like 2 years old, but I like this just because I can get right up on it, and I feel like I'm performing like at a live show. So there's something about like working the mic and like putting your lips on the mic that's fun, and you don't really get that with a pop filter and a condenser mic, right? So that I like. Otherwise, no, I feel like I can get whatever, like if I want it to be really gritty and loud with like some heavy compression and like slapback delay, I can do that easily with either. Now, if I want to dance around the room like Bono with a mic in my hand, then yeah, we're going to go with a SM58 or whatever and call it a day. But yeah, they both can work. Lewis, I'd love to see a video on you mixing piano and vocal. Always been something I struggle with. Yeah, I'm sure I have some. My friend has a Rode NT1 signature mic and an Arteria Mini Fuse 1. He thinks something is missing, like the quality is bad. I'm the mix engineer for his. What are your thoughts? I mean, the NT1's great. It's pretty bright. So if stuff's coming out really bright, you might want to move it closer to the source or whatever. Arteria Mini Fuse, I don't know what that is. Is that the interface? I didn't know they made interfaces. How would Joe even know he was speaking with a Reaper user? It feels like, is Reaper kind of like the joke about CrossFit? Like how you know someone's doing CrossFit because they talk about it all the time? Is that what Reapers are like? My computer's starting to reach that point of struggle. New Studio One, more of a CPU user? I don't know, honestly. I would imagine, yeah, if you do like global transpose, but I think it's gonna do the transposition, and I think it's gonna cache it. So once it transposes it and give it a minute, it should be fine. The splice stuff shouldn't mess with performance because it's just running while you're searching for things. Overall CPU, no idea. Gregor might know. I don't know. Should I get sound dialed in for my tracks before recording, or leave that all for the process of mixing? I'm trying to level up my recording process and having trouble getting to the next step. Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you mean by dialed in. You want to get like the best raw recording that you can. And some of that means you got to know what you can and can't do in a mix. So like if you were to, so I've got a mixing course where you get like 50 songs to mix. And if you go listen to the final version of my mix of a song and you say, I love that drum sound, and then you go mix that song and you at least listen to the raw drum tracks, then you know, okay, I need something at least like this to get to there. Does that make sense? So the raw drums don't sound exactly like the final mix because there's EQ and compression and stuff happening, but they're close. So like I remember listening to somebody played back, it was something like a Queen album, and they were playing the tracks back on a console, and my guess was it was just the straight off the tape machine through the console, no mixing. And I was like, hey, that sounds like the album. And I was disappointed because I wanted the answer to be, oh, they're okay, but man, they must have mixed those really well. I was like, no. So make it sound amazing, just raw with like the micro. I'm not even talking about putting a bunch of EQ and compression on there, just like the tone choices you make and then the mic placements you choose, things like that. Like make it a game where like, how can I make this sound amazing without any plugins? And you won't be able to get it all the way there. But if that's kind of the thing you're aiming for, if you get kind of close, guess what? You're going to have a blast in mixing, and everything's going to sound better because of it. What music have you been recently jamming out to? Royal Bloods is fun. Although I was disappointed in myself that I did not realize it was just bass. It's a bass. It's not guitar. I kept thinking like, man, he plays all these one-note riffs. Like he doesn't even play like a power chord. He's just playing one note. Then I find out he's playing bass with all these octaves, and I'm like, I should quit everything because I didn't realize that. But anyway, their stuff's pretty catchy. Let's see. Any advice on mastering tracks used for backing tracks? I probably, I would ask a sound engineer. Like somebody who does live sound who's handling the mix on the backing tracks. My guess is they don't want them super hot and mastered. That'd be my guess. Or maybe they want it to sound as much like the record as possible, so literally just run the tracks through whatever your mastering chain was. I would imagine fully mastered would be very hot, and they would be trimming it down in the house anyway, which maybe that's fine. Or would they want, I don't know, do they want to have it more raw so they can do their own mix based on the room and the space they're in, right? Because they're having to work in different rooms every night, different arenas, whatever, and they may need to tweak the mix on their end so it'd be the more raw you can present it to them. Is that better? I don't know. Definitely not my world. I've got friends who live in that world, like professional musicians, but they're playing. I don't really know any front of house guys that do that. It's a good question though. What about the version of Lies? It sounded really cool. No, never released it. You can if you do the recording course, you get those tracks and the final mix. I think the final master is in the mastering course because that's where I mastered it. Rick, follow up on vocal chain. I'm new enough to mixing that I don't know best practices like using multiple compressors. Where to learn these? Rick, I believe you said you just bought the course, so that's where. I will teach you that. My general rule of thumb is all vocals, lead vocals, are going to get EQ and compression, and then maybe another compressor, and possibly another EQ. If I'm at the end of the mix and I just need a little extra change to the vocal tone, I don't want to go back to the EQ at the beginning of the chain, let's say, because it's going to mess up how everything else is working. I might do that. That's generally my approach, if that makes sense. Rob Seymour, what's up, Rob? Says, for recording now, I use a Shure NXN8 for vocal and an Aston Original on guitar. Oh, that's not a question. Well, awesome. Trent says, SM7B, Warm Audio 1073. I feel like I don't have enough output volume for my preamp to hit the level I want in my DAW without coloring the signal too much. The answer, is it okay to use the gain on my interface preamp, or will this cause issues? It probably won't cause issues. You could get like a cloud lifter or turn up your headphones. Back to what I've said several times on this stream. If it doesn't need to be a super hot level in your DAW, it needs to be like maybe halfway up the meter. That's fine. Turn up your headphones. And then turn the rest of the music down if you need to, because if that's too loud in the headphones, turn the music down. Turn the music all the way down. Like you set up a VCA fader on all your band tracks. Turn the vocal up to 0, and then get a signal that's not clipping, that's just a nice healthy signal, like halfway up the meter. That's all I care about. Then if that feels too quiet in your headphones, turn up your headphones. Get it to a nice loud volume, and then bring the tracks up to something that blends well with that. And that's it. That's the answer. The answer isn't how do I get more. You literally just answered yourself. You said if I get more gain, it starts to color the sound. Well, then why would you want to color the sound? Just record it cleaner and turn up the way you're listening. That's the answer. It's not the answer people want, though. I don't think people like that answer. But it's the answer. Thanks for the advice earlier in the year about doing one song a month for a year. I don't remember doing that advice, but you're welcome. Just finished my 10th song and video, and I can hear the progress. That's awesome. Sean, just for a moment, everybody do a clap emoji in the chat for Sean. That's a big deal. I'm not trying to like be condescending or like I'm not trying to like patronize you. Like legit, so many people have aspirations, or they think they want to do stuff, or they even say they're going to do stuff, but they don't actually do it. You're actually doing it, and that's huge. You should be proud of that. It sounds like you are, but I just want to recognize that. That's a big deal. It's a lot easier to talk about it, or even to learn about it, than to do it. Saying the guy who like wants to teach you and wants you to like take his courses, but like you got to go do stuff too. Lewis, been binging some of your old videos from 2018. Do you still play live at all with the band? No, I don't. I do not. Do you have any plans on going strictly with your other business like Graham did, or are you going to stay with Home Studio Corner as well? At this point, I still legitimately love Home Studio Corner. And I love that it gives me an excuse to make music and to be in this music space. So it maybe one day, but honestly, I just made a new course. Like I love this. I enjoy this. This is really fun. This feels like a calling, at least for this season of life. How can I achieve chipmunk vocals? You can use the new transpose thing in Studio One, transpose the whole mix down, then sing it, and then transpose everything, including your voice, back up, and then your voice will sound stupid and chipmunky. I just did it on a video the other day. I think it was for Personas. I can't remember. Rob, explain your headphone volume thing again. Okay, so trying to think of the best way to let's say, I'd say go watch that video again because I feel like I explained it well there. Let's say we've got a track, we've got a vocal. Let's do it here. Let's switch back over. Here's our song. We got a guitar and a vocal, okay? And let's say this guitar, for the sake of argument, is pretty loud. Let's see if that's. Let's take those plugins off of that vocal, and let's say we're trying to record a vocal. Let's say. And so we're like, man, I want to get my vocal loud enough so I can hear it, but I turn up the preamp and it's still not loud enough. It still comes through like this, and if I turn it up anymore, it clips. What's a boy to do? So for some reason, people just keep being stubborn about, I just have to keep turning up the preamp. That's not the answer. You don't need to turn up to clipping. Here's what you do. First thing you do is you mute your guitar. You mute the band. Let's assume the guitar is the band. Then listen to your vocal. Stupid drums too. So that's vocal. Let's say that's not how loud I want to hear my voice while I'm singing, but the preamp is as loud as I want to go. It's about halfway up the meter. I don't want to go any louder. I don't want to risk any clipping. That's good. You shouldn't. Then turn up your headphones until that vocal feels like a good volume. So I'm going to turn up here. I've got a fader here. That's essentially my headphone volume. So I'm going to listen to my vocal. I'm going to sing, for example, and adjust my headphones just gently until it gets to a nice volume. For yourself, don't you know? So let's say that's the level I want to hear to sing. Now I'm going to go adjust my guitar. Well, guess what? It's probably very loud now. So I'm going to turn it back down. I might turn the fader down too. I might pull it all the way down and just slowly bring it back up because I've just turned up my headphones louder than they were before. Now I'm going to bring up the guitar while listening to the vocal until I get it to a level where I can hear my voice nice and clear over the guitar. For yourself, don't you know it's okay? Now, is that a good vocal? Is that a good mix? No, that's a good mix if I'm singing. That's not a good mix for the song, but that's how I was able to get, nothing's clipping. You'll notice nothing clipped. I got buckets of volume available to me, and I'm good. I just had to turn up my final stage, my headphones, and then turn down the stuff that was too loud before so that the quiet stuff could come up. It's just basic, like gain staging, basic kind of math that people tend to forget, or they don't tend to think through it enough. And so their only solution is they just keep ramming the preamp on this vocal, hoping that, the clipping doesn't sound too bad in the final version. And it doesn't matter. But they won't be. Hang on. Lucas is answering somebody's question. Whose question are you answering? Jacob. And then Jacob is up here. EQ before a track is a no-go, helpful tool getting. Okay, so back to talking about getting, was concerned with noise floor issues. Yeah, noise floor isn't a thing anymore in like digital systems. Like if you're recording so quiet that it's barely registering on the meter, yeah, you're going to have noise floor issues. But a 24-bit system, even halfway up the meter, there's no noise floor. It's not a thing. It was a thing 40 years ago in an analog studio with a tape machine and a console that were had crap loads of noise. It's not a thing anymore. So you don't have to worry your little head about it. No more. Because also, as you crank it up, then you're not, the preamp is just cranking up the noise floor too, right? You're not changing the noise floor. Like if up here at my head and my hat is clipping and down here is like the noise floor, once it hits the preamp, the noise, like you're turning up the noise floor as well. So you're not actually increasing the distance between the signal and the noise floor above a certain level. Hang on, I got a cough. Okay. I heard somewhere to learn mastering first, so you know what you're shooting for when learning to record and mix. What do you think? I think I would lean towards learn mixing, mastering, and then recording. That's actually the order that I created my first 3 courses, the mixing and mastering and recording courses. I made them in that order. Mainly because people want to learn mixing first. They don't think they need to learn recording. So you teach them mixing and then they realize, oh, I'm not very good at recording. And then you can teach them recording. Because I think you're right. You got to kind of learn what you can and can't do in a mix. And you get that. Honestly, you learn how to record by mixing good stuff. And you recognize what good tracks sound like. So now you know what you're aiming for. Because before, something might sound good to you, but you have no idea. And you realize, oh, no, that wasn't good at all. It was actually really muddy and gross and a bear to mix. I had no bucket. I had no context to put that in because I'd never mixed anything before. But yeah, I mean, I could see the case for mastering. I'd probably go mixing, mastering, but maybe mastering. Any more progress on the Stare Down project? We met once and we wrote kind of the bones of a song in mostly, at least half the song is in like 7/4 time. So it's pretty cool. But that's it thus far. Joe, when I master my song, it's loud in the DAW, but after I export it, it's still quiet. Please help out. You probably didn't master it loud enough. Are you using some sort of reference so you know what your level is? And if you master too loudly and then you upload to Spotify, they're going to turn it down anyway if you go too loud. It's really hard to answer. Hello, Penny Keeping. What is your mental model for mixing? Do you think volume first, then stereo width, then front back position, or some other concept? Well, if you read my 5-step mix guide, the main process is I focus on static mix first, which is levels and panning. Then I focus on fixing the biggest problems, which is usually an EQ thing. Then I focus on the top-down mix. I don't do any of that front-back position nonsense. That's the process I take. And I add things like reverb if I think this track needs some reverb. I don't do like, oh, I must make this all sound like it's in a cathedral. Nobody's actually thinking like that. So you don't have to do that. Hi, Joe. How important for home studio is measuring the room, EQ, doing room treatment? Room treatment is important. Measuring, not so much. I mean, I'm sure it can help. I've never done it. I've never seen, I'm sure, it's one of those things like, is it good for you? Sure. Have I done my whole career without it? Yes. I don't know. Though that's the way I approach it. Sometimes my vocals have a huge signal noise variation when recording. Do you ever compress during recording to address that? Well, compression's not going to fix a signal to noise. I don't think you understand what you're saying if you mean signal to noise variation. Compression will only make that worse. It's not going to make it better because compression turns down the loud parts and turns up the quiet parts. So compression makes there less of a signal to noise ratio, meaning the noise is a lot louder because of the compression. So no, compression will not solve that. Also, might not be a problem. Might not be something that needs solving. But I got to know what you mean by noise. Jay the Mole says, I compensate by listening to bounces on many systems to try to achieve good balance. Is this okay? Sure. Yeah. I mean, that is good. And I think it's a necessary step, especially when you're learning. Eventually, you learn what good mixes sound like in your studio, in your mix position, to where you'll still check mixes elsewhere just for any surprises. But generally speaking, you're not surprised because you've done this 1,000 times and you know what a good mix sounds like, if that makes sense. And you'll get there. It's just it takes time. It just takes time. It just takes some time. Little girl, you're in the middle of a rhyme. I'm probably getting ready to wind it down. I think the kiddos are home from school. I'm going to go hang out with them. Final thing. This is the last day to get this course. The link below. It's a brand new course. It's half off. If I've brought you any value at all and you enjoy learning from me, this course will be a game changer for you. And yes, a course is a little bit of work. You got to work through the material and apply what you learn. But it's also a good kick in the butt, being like, okay, I spent $150 on this. I'm gonna get through it, and I'm gonna apply something, and it's gonna start to create this momentum to where you're just off to the races. And you're emailing me in March saying, I've made more music in the last few months than I ever thought possible. It's crazy. Love it. So check it out. Go grab it. Go click on the link. There's a video explaining it. And the discount ends tonight at midnight. Tom says, I meant during the recording, there are very soft parts and very loud parts. Do you ever compress during recording to reduce the overall gain range? I got you. So you don't mean so much signal to noise as you just mean the dynamic range of the quiet parts and the loud parts. Here's the beauty of this. Set your preamp to where the loud part is nowhere close to clipping, and then just enjoy. Inside this course, I record a song where I'm singing quiet and falsetto for the verse, and then the final outro is me almost screaming. Yes, you can listen to this later, Rob. Just this is the place. When I'm done, you can rewind all the way to the beginning. You can probably rewind now. But the last part of that song is me screaming loud, and the beginning is very quiet. I just set the preamp so it's not clipping here, and did the thing I just showed before about setting levels and all that, and I was good to go. Then, so your question about compression is, when I was singing it, I was thinking, man, I feel like when I'm singing the loud parts, it feels a little too loud just to my ears, and the quiet the quiet part feels too quiet. So what I did is I put a compressor plug-in on the vocal and just recorded through a really aggressive compressor plug-in. That didn't get recorded. It's just what I listened to while I was recording, and it just felt awesome. It felt like when I sing live, I sing a lot live, mostly at my church now, but the front of house guy is putting compression on my voice, and I know what that feels like, and it feels kind of like a guitar amp that's cranked a little bit and it gives back. When you dig in on the guitar, it pushes back. That's kind of what a compressor feels like when you're singing. It feels nice, but you can also go too far and overcompress such that you can't undo it later, and your recording is ruined because you compressed it too much. That's the beauty of plugins. I could put a crap load of compression on there, sing, and then the raw vocal has no compression. That's what I would do in that situation. I don't do it every time, but yeah, if it's a specific song where man, this is so dynamic, you can either record each part separately, do the loud part first, then do the quiet part, and you could even adjust the preamp gain for each section. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. For me, it's easier to just set the preamp for the whole song and just not worry about it and just sing the whole song. But also, I like to do bigger takes, if that makes sense. Hi, Joe. Hi. When I DI my electric guitar, there's a hissing noise. Any tips on why this is happening or how to fix it? Well, I'd have to have more detail. Are you recording it through some sort of an amp? Why are you DIing it to begin with? Could be just that's what your guitar sounds like, or that's what your pickups sound like. I don't know. X equals what says mixing the 50 plus bonus songs in the home studio on the home mixing course has been a game changer. Getting the reps is so useful. Yep. I'm glad to hear that. It's a lot of Joe Gilder to listen to, but Eric Davies, I did see your order come through. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate that. Darren Devereaux says, I love the mixing template you showed earlier. Is there a video on how to create one? Yeah, I did one recently, I think. Let's go find out. Let me show my screen her. PreSonus Joe Gilder template. Yeah, there's this one from 2 years ago, which is look at that guy with a TV in the background. Also, that guy a little chunky. Yeah, that video I've done several. This one is not exactly what you're asking for. There's another one that's from 4 years ago. It's only a minute long. Who's this? Look at this guy. Who is that fella? This is one with my mix template. This one's older. This is like Studio One 4, I think. But yeah, all those will show you how to do it. And really, it's you don't need to like download mine. I know it's not what you're asking, but anyway, you don't want to build your own based on how you like to work. But I also get wanting my own, so it's over there. I should create a page where you can just download it. Let me write that down. Template download page. That's the obvious answer to a question that I get all the time, and I just thought to do that. Film, thank you. Jay the Mole, thank you. Brian E., you're a legend. Thank you, brother. Thank you for all you do. Lucas, you're welcome, man. Take care, Joe, as always. Anybody on the fence, do it. I've never been disappointed. Scott, thank you, brother. This is Hans coming back with the question about the DI with the noise. I plug it into my interface to record it and add amp plugins after, but I don't have an amp at the moment. I've tried different cables, but nothing fixes it. Yeah, I'd be curious to know what the guitar is. What's up, Running Wolf? Is the guitar, it might just be a cheap electric with bad electronics. You can replace electronics fairly cheaply. But the bigger picture is, so here's the thing. Whenever you're going, like just in life, when someone asks a question, get to the bottom of it before making suggestions. Because it could be, like realistically, it could be that there is no noise problem. You think there is, but there's not. One thing that I learned from Stubert Studios here was don't crank up the preamp on your interface when you're doing DI recording. It's meant to receive a low-level guitar signal. That's what the amp is wanting. So that could be the solution right there. Go to Stubert's. Go to right here, Stubert Studios. Go to his channel. Find the link to his website. He's got a guide about exactly what I'm talking about. Super helpful. And he's got some videos on it as well. So definitely go check that out. Because my guess is it's maybe not a problem. And if it is, it may be because you're just cranking up your preamp and you don't need to. But also, like I tell the story where a guy came, this was years ago. He came to my studio, came to an event I was doing. And we had a session where we were listening to people's mixes and offering feedback. And he kept saying, he went on for it seemed like 10 minutes talking about how bad the sibilance was on this song that he was working on. And he just could not figure it out. The S's were out of control. Our ears were going to fall off if we listened to it, just on and on and on. So I was ready for the worst sibilance I've ever heard in my life. We listened to the song. I didn't even notice the sibilance. There was no problem. So just all that being said, you may not even have a problem, Hans. It may legitimately not be a problem. So maybe get with somebody, have them take a listen. It may be fine. All right, y'all. We're at the 2 hour and 24 minute mark. I'm ready to wind it down. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you for your time. I know you could be tuning into all sorts of things, but I'm glad you chose to spend some time here with me today. Final time, I'll say it. Got a brand new course out. There's a video there that explains what it is. If you're interested in getting better vocals and that makes sense for you, go grab it. Otherwise, thank you for your time. And I guess we're done here. I'm going to wrap it up here, and I will see y'all around. Later.